Mali's military leader is insisting the situation in his country is back under control. That as he made his first public address since unprecedented large-scale attacks at the weekend destabilised his ruling junta. Jihadists and Tuareg separatists are still positioned in the vast country's north. 3 days after launching a wave of attacks, the rebels still claiming that they hold the northern stronghold city of Kidal. Well, let's hear, though, from the junta leader.
As I speak, security measures have been stepped up. The situation is under control, and search operations, intelligence gathering, and security operations are continuing.
Well, International Affairs Editor Philip Turle is with me here on set. Philip, first of all, just bring us up to date with the latest developments, can you?
Right, well, this is an announcement that's been hotly awaited since Saturday, and finally Mali's military leader Assimi Goita has taken the stand to speak about what has been going on, trying to put a fairly rational, reassuring face on it. But I think that's only going to worry people more due to the effect that there have been lots of reports coming out about movements of these two jihadist groups in the country, the fall of Kidal, also the assassination of the Malian Defence Minister Sadio Camara, who was killed in an apparent car bomb explosion, suicide truck bombing at his residence in Katiouch, just outside Bamako. That was on Saturday. So the situation is pretty worrying, I think, for the junta, and there are rumours going around about whether or not there could be a reshuffle within the junta as a result of what has been happening in the country and the assassination of Sadio Camara, who was really number two in the junta and known to be very pro-Russian. So what is happening there? Well, we have two groups. The first one is called the Azawad Liberation Front, the FLA, which is a Tuareg group. It was founded back in November 2024. It's led by Al-Ghabas Ag Intala. What this group wants is the autonomy of a province called Azawad in the north of Mali. This is something that they have been calling for since Mali's independence back in 1960. And the second group is called the Jamaat Nusrat al-Islami wal Muslimin, or JENIM as it's called in short. This is a Salafi jihadist group which has been linked to Al-Qaeda and also is drawn up of remnants of another jihadi group called Al-Sadin, which was also active in Mali. It's estimated to have about 5,000 to 6,000 fighters. Now, one might wonder what the similarity is between these two groups because they have different objectives. The JENIM's objective is to create a caliphate in Mali. Well, there are some of the Tuaregs who have joined forces with JENIM in the northern part of the country. And they are also both against the junta, saying that it should go. So that has sort of made them come together to move to what they say is now going to be a blockade of the capital, Bamako. Now, if this does take place, this is going to be pretty bad news for the junta because that will lead to a shortage of food and also to a shortage of fuel and the ability of the people living there to be able to lead their normal lives. So there is a lot of uncertainty about what is going on there. I think this announcement by the military leader Assimi Goita will maybe calm spirits for a while, but it doesn't take away the fact that there is a lot going on in Mali and a lot of incertitude, uncertainty about exactly what's going on. And this is probably one of the biggest threats to the junta since it took power.
You know, obviously big problems for the junta, big problems for the Russians as well, this, isn't it?
Well, it's bad news for the Russians. That's certainly true. Just to underline the fact that formerly it was France that was sending its troops in there as part of Operation Barkhane to try to crush the uprising by jihadi forces. They were kicked out of the country when the current military regime took power and replaced by what were then the Russian Wagner group, the mercenary group called Wagner. After the head of Wagner got killed, his name was Yevgeny Prigozhin back in 2023, it was then taken over by the Russian Defence Ministry. It's now called the Russian Africa Corps. It has about 2,000 to 2,500 men in the country. But they have already lost control of the town of Kidal in the north, which is a huge fall from grace from them, because then they managed to retake control of this city back in 2023. So Kidal has now fallen into the hands of the rebels, who say they're going to now start moving further south towards the capital, Bamako. This is bad news for the Russians, because the Russians have gone into Mali with two aims. First of all, to protect work with government forces against jihadists and rebel groups. That obviously has not been working very well. And the second point is that the Russians were in there to take advantage of mineral resources in Mali, which were then sent back to Russia. The problem for them is that Russia is bogged down in the war in Ukraine and hasn't got the military capacity to be able to send more troops into Mali to back up its Africa core. So that's why we're seeing, I think, on the part of the jihadists and the rebels, this push forward now to think this is maybe the right time for us to try to seize control of the country.
Let's talk about France quickly, Philip. I mean, is there a possibility France might intervene in the case of rebels here? We're also just hearing, in fact, in the last few moments while you were talking there.
No, I think it's
from the Foreign Affairs Ministry, France calling on its citizens to leave Mali now as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a long shot that France is not going to get involved. It ceased all military cooperation back in 2021 when it was pushed out of the country by the junta. There were 5,000 soldiers deployed in the region back then. There's no agreement between the junta and France. And France also has other wars to worry about right now, with the coalition of the willing that it's drawing up, the war in Ukraine, the current standoff over the Strait of Hormuz, to get back involved in Mali, where it was told more or less just to go so that Mali could sort out its own problems. So that obviously doesn't seem to be the case. So I think there's a lot of worry, not only in Mali, but also its neighbours, Burkina Faso and in Niger, that this could spread much more into be more a regional conflict than just one within Mali itself.
Philip, thanks very much. Philip Turle, International Affairs Editor there.